Hey, music community, Jeff here again with something a little different today. We are not talking about vinyl. So as was shown in the title there, it's odd to think sometimes, I guess, because so much vinyl comes out that there are still quite a few bands, and of course it's going to be on the smaller side, the smaller labels, the smaller distributors, the bands that are up and coming, but there are quite a few bands that still only get CD releases. So it's not that vinyl's totally, across the board on everything. And so, people like me who show a lot of vinyl, I do still buy quite a few CDs because there are a lot of bands in the smaller areas that I still appreciate, still enjoy. And sometimes, of course, they'll release them on CD and then at a later date release them on vinyl, depending on the sales of the CD. So there is one case for that in my list here. I just thought, let's give some love to some of the bands. I'm sure most of these I've shown when I got them in, but let's look a little recap back at what I consider some of my favorites, my top 10 favorite CD-only releases from 2023. Now, I am going to say, and I'll state this now because people can be like, who? But I'm going to make a prediction that I would say 90% of the people watching this video are probably not going to know who 90% of the bands in my list are. I mean, these are, because they're CD-only releases, these are going to be somewhat obscure. They're not on major labels. They're not major name bands, but these are the bands that came across my desk that I have totally loved in 2023. Up first is Adorned Graves. They are a band from Germany, metal, doom metal, sludgy, but great stuff. And they've got a couple previous albums out to this one, and this is their latest. And my copy even has autographs, which is really cool. So and this has been a really good album. I've really appreciated this one, and I'm not even sure if I have their previous ones. I have a couple from a couple years back, and I know they've had some guest singers. But so this is one that stuck out in 2023 as being one of the top ones. It's coming in at number 10. And number 9 is Bulletproof. They are I believe, from UK. The album was recorded in London, so I'm assuming that the band is from that area. Fairly new band. I got a CD by them, I think, in early 2023. That was actually a 2021 album that was reissued in 2023 on Eonian Records. This looks like this is a 2023 recording by the same band. The band has very much a throwback to an 80s sound. The only thing I find on this, I really enjoy it, but at times the vocalist is singing with the, a higher range, kind of a falsetto-ish feel, kind of a Guns N' Roses feel, the high range. And at times it doesn't really work for me. There are some spots where it sounds, as they would say on American Idol, a little pitchy. And it sometimes doesn't quite flow as well. First album that I got from 2021, I didn't really notice as much, and I don't know, but so I really still do really like them. And so when this came out, I definitely scooped it up because I really enjoyed them. But they got that throwback sound, and they do it pretty well most of the time. So that's been up there. In at number 9, Bloody Dice, I believe, are from Denmark. I believe, at least, reading the notes here, I believe they're a Denmark band. Over there somewhere, a couple of the guys are from Denmark. They very much it almost feels a little on the alternative alt side, but still very modern. It's got some solos and stuff in there, but a modern take with a little bit more of a real bluesy-ish, not real bluesy, but that bluesy, kind of not so speed, not fast rocking, just hard rocking band, kind of stuff you would have seen maybe in the later 90s, early 2000s. Not that it sounds dated at all. I didn't get that impression until I really focused on it. I said, I guess this is a little of the stuff that we might have seen back in the day, of the alt rock, the Creeds and the stuff like that, Soundgarden and things along that line. But it doesn't sound really like any of that stuff. It's got a modern flair, but it's kind of more of a grooving, laid-back stuff. So I've really enjoyed this one. So there you go. Coming in at number 5 is Absalon. Now, I mentioned this back in the day when it came out. This is an album that has a very Queensryche, Operation Mindcrime feel. It's a concept album about a mental patient. Anyway, It's got a lot of that feeling in there. Now, the new Absalon album just dropped for 2024. I have the digital tracks from the label. The CD is on order, and it's so different from this. The first two Absalon albums were concept albums, and they had a very, dramatic feel through them. The new one is just straight up metal. It's just straight up, heavy, good stuff. So I'm really looking forward to that. I mean, I've listened to it quite a few times already. Looking forward to the actual CD. That'll be a good 2024 release, top notch, I'm sure, on the top of my list of bands and hopefully that'll get a vinyl reissue. I mean, because it is being released. I believe that one's coming out on Scott Waters' label, No Life Till Metal. Maybe. I don't think the pre-orders were CDs only. Maybe one day vinyl. This one not. But great stuff. If you need to, if you're into that Queensryche Operation Mindcrime feel, track down. This is on more or less just. Oh, this is on No Life Till Metal too. I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, Scott's label also. Track it down. No Life Till Metal. You won't regret it. All right, these next two are more or less independent releases, and they're kind of related. Luke Neely, Reclamation, guitar player for the band that's coming up after this one. And he does a lot of stuff. And he's one of those people that kind of makes people like me sick because he plays everything. And he plays everything well. You watch the videos for this album, and he's playing guitar, he's playing bass, he's singing, he's playing drums. And I'm just like, oh, man, I wish I had a little bit of talent. I'm just a drummer. But, yeah. And then you look at his, Facebook page. He plays in cover bands, and his main band is, proggy at times. And he is just a multi-talented person. And like I say, he does pretty much everything on this album. Straight up metal, middle of the road metal, traditional metal feel. Great stuff. And got some cool grooves, some cool riffs, and some cool melodies the way the songs are written. And he is a guitar player in After Winter. He has family members that are in here too. This is a full band. It's got a female singer and male singers, and it's got some concepts at time. This is a double record set. I've got some previous 7-inch singles and stuff from them. They've had some single songs that have been released on compilations. This is their first full album, double record set, filled with songs. Got some concepts in here and storylines in here. I will say the only negative about this is it does feel a little long. It's very long. And some of the later, at first it starts off just amazing, but then after a while it starts, for me at least, I start getting a little tired of it. And at times it starts to feel like there are a few songs on here that could have been left off. They don't really work as well vocally and everything. But, overall, you could get more than a solid full album out of this, and they just sound great. They've got all kinds of great melodicness. They've got great melodies. They've got great song structure, great playing, just all around. The vocals and everything are great. So, overall, very great stuff. All right, moving to number 4, Deny the Fallen with Echo Chamber. This is the second Deny the Fallen album. Their first album came out a handful of years ago, I don't know. I forget. I should have looked it back up again. 2018 or something. It was quite a few years ago. Kind of a put-together band. I'm not even sure if the band are all in the same location, if it's one of those recording projects. It's got Ray Pera of Sacred Warrior fame on here. And anyway, it was kind of like a put together, I thought, and maybe they were together. Maybe I'm totally off the mark. The first album was good. I remember back in the day it was good. It got quite a bit of listens. It's very modern feeling. It's got Ray's got a very melodic voice, but at times he gets a little more aggressive than he has on previous projects. So it kind of struck me as a little odd. I enjoyed it, but it was a little different. This album came out of the gate screaming. Still has that modern feel. Still has that. It's a little odd as far as my melodic ear goes and what I'm expecting to hear Ray do. But I have fallen in love with it. It's just, after repeated listens, I get more repeated listens. So it has really stood out above and beyond what I recall as far as the first album. So, very great stuff. Check it out. It's on Rocks Records. So that has been a highlight for the year for sure. And now we're in the top 3. And I will say, I think that the main thing is all 3 of these bands are in that very, very much sweet spot of a very melodic, I hate to use the term 80s metal feel because it's not that, but it's what we traditionally think of 80s metal with the powerful vocals, the very melodic side of things and everything. And so these three bands excel in that area, and so they have ran to the top of my list, to the top of my playlist numerous times throughout the year. The first one at number 3, Blood Moon Rising by Preterist. Now this one is a little bit of a cheat because this is really a 2022 release. It was released digitally in 2022, but it was finally picked up and released on CD by Roxx Records in 2023, and that's when I technically discovered it, and it's really the official release. It's more or less a one-man project, but he does have CJ Grimark on guitar, who is the guitar player for Narnia. So he's got some musicians in here helping him out that they recorded their parts and everything, but it's more or less one guy doing pretty much the rest of it. And he's got a bass player too, but it's a one-man project doing the rest, and the songwriting, the singing, and recording and all that, and then he's got some guitar playing stuff on there. So power metal, melodic vocals, it's just, production is top notch. It's hard to believe this is self-producing somebody's, but people can do that nowadays. The stuff that people are self-producing can be very top notch, and this is positive proof of that. This album just sounds, it's just powerful and great and melodic and power metal and great stuff. Absolutely became quickly one of my favorites. This was a Kickstarter program again. Pretty much Calamity Kills, a return of Jamie Rowe of Guardian fame. I followed along with all the clips in the studio and everything, and so he has some guest musicians and things along the line, but he's done some stuff in the past solo since Guardian. He did an album that had a very much southern country-ish flair, and this is a 100% return to the melodic metal Guardian type, melodic metal type feel, and it's powerful at times. His production is great, songwriting is great, his vocals are great, he still sounds great, he still can go straight up with that metallic feel on his songs. And so this one has been for sure a comeback album of sorts for those who have waited for Jamie to come back with something very heavy related. And there you go. And I'd love to see this on vinyl. I had to go back to the Kickstarter program to double check to make sure it wasn't something that was slated for vinyl that maybe was coming much later, and it wasn't. I'm hoping the album has done really well and really been a killer album release, and maybe they'll one day circle back and do it on a smaller scale. Same with this one. This was a Kickstarter program that actually did not fill one of those fundraiser programs, and it didn't reach its goal. And so the band continued on little by little over the years of doing it. It is a project. Well, let's see. Martin Simpson's Destroyer of Death. It is more of a project. All the band members are in different areas. And it's got Rob Rock on vocals, which everybody knows is one of my favorite singers. And so you've got all these guys doing their parts from their different areas. And it finally came together. They did it on little by little with their own funding. I believe they kept the funding, were able to keep most of the funding from the Kickstarter program that they did in order to, and then they've added their own to it in order to get it done. Now, the interesting thing about this one, as with number 3, I just realized I totally didn't think about it. CJ Grimark also plays guitar on this one. So again, he's overseas in like Sweden. You got Rob Rock down in like Florida, wherever he's at now. You got Martin, I think, where is he, in California or someplace? I'm forgetting. But anyway, it's for a band that does it all themselves in their whatever basements and studios or whatever, probably just one of the most phenomenally sounding produced records of a self-released band. Stellar production, stellar songwriting, stellar vocal performance, musician performance, tone, guitar tone. I mean, everything. This is 100% a professional release, in my opinion. Now, it is cheating a little bit because after this album dropped last year, I think it seems like it really took off because people were demanding a vinyl release, and we are going to see this on vinyl in 2024. It has not happened yet. I have actually pre-ordered mine. They're getting it done by some small company overseas, and I forget when the date is. I pre-ordered it, but I forget when the release date is, but it's definitely worthy of that. But for 2023, this was a CD-only release, you know, with hopes of maybe a vinyl release. But yeah, this was probably the shining star of my 2023 as far as just one of the best albums that I heard. Love it, played it to death. There you go. Just my top 10 CD-only releases for 2023. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll be back. Rock on and rock hard.